you can get behind him all the way due to like from his upbringing, from him not having his father growing up, then to end up losing his whole family.
He was also completely relatable early on. He wasn't the chosen one. He wasn't considered special. His life wasn't going nowhere.
His character, I feel like, plays off of just one trope in this one rule, which is the rule of cool.
This is how someone who is literally at the infancy of their character development, their power development, and literally growing into who they are becoming as an adult, as a hero, as a man, is supposed to be.
I know Luffy is kind of just a run forward type of guy. He's as they call him, a PC game is a W key. He just hold W going forward.
Yeah.
But that man arrived his folks.
Yo, what's poppin', everybody? It's the No Level Cap Podcast. We back once again with the crew, talking about all the anime, all the gaming, all the nerd culture, none of the bullshit. I want y'all to let me introduce y'all to my incredible co-hosts. We got the collector of collector and the master of Twitch, Will Coleman. I heard you back on Twitch, bro. What's up?
Yeah, I'm back on there. I'm doing some first off streams to get myself used to doing this shit again because it's been months. So yeah, like I did Fortnite this past Monday. Last night I did Darkest Dungeon. So by all means, I'm trying to get back into the swing of things where I really pick up a full game to run now. So yeah.
Where can they find you on Twitch?
Willie DC 28 is where you'll find me. I am up at usually between 8 to 9 p.m. up until about maybe 1, 2 a.m. So I'm up if you up. That's the best way to put it.
Yeah, that's them adult hours right there. Next up, we got the Black Daredevil and the Seeker up and a No Level Cap, Terrence Flowers. What's going on, Terrence?
Hey, everything is good. Can't complain too much. I've been looking at more Street Fighter 6 footage since this week. A lot of the fighting game influencers got a chance to go up to the Capcom headquarters in San Francisco and film some new footage from the final build of the game, I believe. And I mean, things are looking good. I'm really looking forward to the full release, and June 2nd is just around the corner. So yeah, I can't wait to press some buttons again. So looking forward to that. But other than that, everything is all good.
Man, we are really close to the month of June, which is going to be a huge month for gaming.
Yeah.
Not just Street Fighter, but like Final Fantasy 16, Diablo 4. Like it's going to be big.
Yeah.
For me, I'm probably not going to be playing any of those games. I'll probably be working through my backlog, getting ready for Trails of Reverie. But it's still just an exciting month nonetheless.
Oh, yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing like how all those games perform. This is going to be the month, like it's probably the most important month of the year. Even if there are other big hitters coming out later in the year, this is going to decide whether this is like one of the greatest years of all time in video games or if it's just another year. So I'm excited to see how that turns out. Next up, we got the living cartoon and the man with the golden voice, Rakeem Beck. What's good, Rakeem?
Hey, what's up, guys? Ready for this podcast tonight. I'm still playing through Jedi Survivor. I'm still enjoying the game, but the technical issues, they've been racking up a little bit. I had 2 crashes today while I was playing it. Turns out it was just like one spot that just, if you go there, it crashed.
Period. Are you PS5 or PC?
I'm PS5 right
okay.
on for Jedi Survivor.
Okay.
It's one spot just crashed. I don't know if it's something that happened because of the update they had recently to deal with the issues and it caused another problem. I just didn't go over there. It wasn't mandatory. It was just some extra area. So I was like, I'm just gonna leave the area alone. And after that, didn't have any issues. But yeah, game's still great, still enjoying it. But those technical issues, man, it's just so unfortunate. It's gonna mar that game's legacy, to be honest. Other than that, still catching up on anime. Been enjoying Mashal, Hell's Paradise, Gundam Witch from Mercury. Getting back into my Star Wars love again. I've been watching Star Wars Vision Season 2 recently.
Yo, that first episode, the art style for that it's insane.
Very creative. Man, very creative first episode.
Like every frame looks like a painting. Like if I just paused it, it just looks like I could just take that and just hang it up as a painting. It's crazy how that art style goes so hard.
Oh yeah. When Disney does the collective stuff, I don't think they get enough credit. When they do anthology and collective stuff for these different studios, those studios show out. They really do a good job with Visions. They have the Tales of the Jedi recently. They have like a Black African collective they've had recently on Disney Plus, I believe, too. And all that stuff's been, from what I've seen so far, great. So I've been enjoying that. Yeah.
All right, now that you nerds are done talking about Star Wars, let's talk about some other nerd shit. Next up, we got One Punch Man and the Master of Combos, Devin Butts. What's going on, Devin?
I'm good, man. Great to be here for another episode, man. This one should be a pretty good one. Actually, this week, like Terrence said, I've been watching some Street Fighter 6 footage. Some of the newer characters they haven't really shown a lot on yet. Some of the content creators got some footage, and JP is like an all-star right now. I'm really liking the way he's looking with his gameplay. Also
can
been
already
working
see.
on some preliminary combo stuff with the demo they have on the PC version. People are actually playing online together with Parsec on the PC. I'm trying to get in there and see if I can find some people. But I'm having some issues with my Parsec account. Also been watching anime, Mashal, loving it. I'm probably gonna go back and watch the first 5 episodes. I think I watched the first episode like 3 or 4 times already. I'm probably just gonna go back and watch episode 1 through 5 again. Like, I'm really liking this anime. Like, this anime is hilarious. Hell's Paradise is still good. And also, we did one of our previous episodes about the Isekai. I believe Terrence and Sage suggested this to me, the Cautious Hero.
Oh yeah.
Amazing. Me and Rakeem were in
I'm
tears
glad
in
you
the
like
first
it.
2 episodes. Boy, that is an anime.
I mean, I am glad that like I'm always happy when like a recommendation pays off. Like people find it like enjoy it just as much as I hope that they would. So I'm happy about that.
And that show from the start, it was funny.
It is it goes some very interesting places, but it is for the most part just like a really funny, solid isekai parody. So I mean, I'm glad you're enjoying it. Lastly, of course, I am Sage Ashford, the man who won't shut up. I've just been up to playing. I've been getting back into Xenoblade for a little while, knocking out, trying to finish up Xenoblade 3, even though I got like a long way to go, especially considering all the side quests and nonsense that they always throw into the Xenoblade games. I want to try and finish this in time for Trails into Reverie. I was playing Trails of Kuro or Trails into Dawn, whatever the fuck they wind up calling it. I was playing Trails into Dawn, like the fan sub version, for a while. But I realized I was going to need to give that a break if I was going to enjoy Reverie like I wanted to. So I just went back to Xenoblade for a little bit. Other than that, I've been trying to get through Gundam. I actually was watching some of Gundam Witch from Mercury before the podcast. I'll probably finish up the last of season 1 and start season 2 when the podcast is over. And I've been watching a lot of Star Trek. In contrast to the Star Wars people, I've been watching a lot of Star Trek Next Generation, just trying to like immerse myself a little bit more into that universe. And because like it's turned into this thing where Star Trek in general like is a unique fantasy. Like it used to be everything kind of looked like Star Trek. Now now science fiction, a lot of times it looks more like Alien than anything else. Like everything's like, oh, there's this uncontrollable, unstoppable monster coming through, killing us. Big heavy focus on isolation, or it's like we just got into space and we're just figuring out space. It's either one of those two. So Star Trek is just like a really nice change of pace for me. So I've been enjoying that. If you didn't know, No Level Cap goes live every Monday morning. We're on YouTube for video fans, but if you prefer the audio version, we're live on Spotify as well. We're also on TikTok. I want you to give us a follow. You ain't got to worry about the government banning the clock app, but it's probably going to be all right. So let's just get into the topic for the week. By now, if you're an anime fan, you know the truth. You know that this is, a fact. It's damn near impossible to get away from Shonen. Even though we're all grown and the shit is really aimed at like ages 8 through 15. Yes, all of them, all the Shonen are aimed at like teenagers. Stop. Like, I know you thinking like, oh man, but not this show. That Shonen too, all of them. They're all aimed at like teenagers. They not for like, oh no, I'm supposed to be this for grown-ups. Like, no, none of them for grown-ups. That's why they're Shonen. But even still, there's nothing more exciting than watching a villain who's been plotting a bullshit for 40 episodes. He didn't kill the protagonist's family. He about to sacrifice a whole country for some immortality. But now they plan been foiled and he about to get punched in the mouth. The power-ups, the fight scenes, the power of friendship. Even when you get tired of Shonen, that everybody still has that one Shonen anime that they really love. So I want to take this week to talk about favorite Shonen protagonists. It can be main characters. It can kind of, it can be side guys if you want. Either's fine, but like I want to talk about like just Shonen protagonist type characters. The first thing I wanted to do is ask, what's your favorite Shonen archetype? Over time I've kind of noticed that every Shonen main hero for sure, and some of the side heroes, but definitely the main heroes, kind of break down into 3 different heroes. You have the Goku, the fight focused character. He loved to eat a lot. He's really good natured. probably not that smart. Probably not. He might be a fighting genius at best, but like other than that, he's probably not super intelligent. The characters you have like Goku, Naruto, Luffy, Natsu, like those type characters. Then you got the Yusuke, the street smart character. Might be a bit of a trickster, might not be. Definitely always a trash talker. So you have like Yusuke, Ichigo, Edward Elric, and then of course you have like, and this isn't. Well, let me get through it. Then lastly, you have the Deku. He's like smart. He's like kind. He's probably not very confident. He starts out weaker than everybody else around him and then grows stronger over time. So you have like Deku, Kenichi, Tanjiro, like those type characters. And to be clear, these characters aren't all Goku is, but everybody else, like they're not necessarily like the originator. Like Deku's definitely not the originator. Personally, I think one of the oldest characters like Deku is like Negi from Negima. That character is basically the same kind of archetype, just like a really small, kind, like, and then he wind up being the main guy over time. But like I just wanted to make sure that everybody had like a touchstone, like not just y'all, but like the viewers. Like I wanted to make sure everybody had a touchstone, like where you immediately go, yeah, I know that guy. And the archetypes kind of more like Venn diagrams. So like there are some characters like Joseph Joestar, I would say is more like a mix of Yusuke and Deku, where he's like street smart, but he's also kind of like not really the strongest, like all that, like bit of both, so like it doesn't have to be like a firm 1, 2, or 3, but I do kind of want to see what y'all favorite archetype is. Devin, what's your favorite?
My favorite archetype would have to be I want to say the street smart, like number 2, but I think number 3 has got to be. I always like seeing the guy that's like, he's kind of not sure of himself at first, and then he kind of starts to find himself, become stronger over time. I guess I kind of relate with some of those characters a lot. One of my favorite would have to be Mob from Mob Psycho 100. So I'll have to say that'd probably be my favorite one. You want me to just list the characters that I like out of that category?
And you don't have to. I mean, like
Okay.
It's just like you said, like it didn't, like you ain't gotta be no deep thought. I just wanted to see what everybody's favorite were before we got into like favorite characters and whatnot. So
okay.
So like for you, it's the Deku, like the smart kind type dude.
Yeah.
Where he just kind of like over time you start to realize, oh no, he that guy. He just he had to get in.
Because it's like you have to. It's a lot of times it's like an allegory to real life. You got to start believing in yourself before others.
Right.
If you don't believe in yourself, nobody else is going to do that. So like Deku was a perfect example. Like all he wanted was to be a hero, to have a quirk. He didn't have one. It just almost kind of crushed him, but he still kept that hope. And he finally got one. And he was like kind of that dude when he started to get the hang of it. Well, him being passed down a quirk to him, and how hard he worked to like just perfect it and master it. Because I mean, it was literally like destroying his body to use it. Just seeing him, he never got cocky, he never got like overconfident, even though his rival was like just my face, punch in the mouth. I just like seeing characters like that work in their elements. So I would definitely have to say number 3 is my favorite.
Okay. All right, Terrence, what's your favorite of the Shonen archetype type characters?
So I'll say that I definitely have experience with all 3, because like based on like the particular like decade or like time frame, there's each type has kind of like risen in popularity, or they've been popular at some point. I mean, a lot of them are still popular. It's just a matter of seeing like which one we're seeing the most of now. Of course, the Goku type, I mean, we've seen that plenty, just because he was popular during that time, like the 90s and the early 2000s. And you even see it now with Asta. And then when Yu Yu Hakusho came around, I really got into watching that, and I loved Yusuke as a protagonist, and he's that street. And what's cool about him is he is not stupid, but he embodies like that street smarts as well. And so I really got into that archetype. And then you have the Deku, which isn't like new, like you said, but you're starting to see more shonen protagonists that are like that now than maybe what there used to be. In terms of my favorite, I want to say it's a mixture of the street and of Yusuke and Deku, but I think I'm leaning more so on the Deku type now, just because it's interesting to see where that's going in comparison to the other two. If anything, I would say I feel like we don't have as many use cases as we used to.
No.
Yeah, it feels like we don't get like that good in between anymore. But if we do have a choice, if I had a choice between like a Goku and a Deku, then for me right now, I would go for the Deku just because there's a little bit more going on there. And that's not to say that, you know, a character like Goku or Asta, that they lack depth just because they're not smart. It's just that for me personally, I think I like the development more of a Deku type. So yeah, or a Deku like a Tanjiro, just to give another example. Yeah.
I mean that makes perfect sense though. Rakeem, what about you, man? What's your favorite archetype?
I would say it's kind of a mixture of 2 and 3. I remember like was it maybe years ago? It's still being a debate how people kind of talk down on Deku because he gets damaged all the time, he cries all the time, and I'm like, bro, this is a child. Like you guys have been exposed, of course, heroes who are able to overcome everything with their overpowered abilities or quick wit. Like sometimes this is how someone who is literally at the infancy of their character development, their power development, and literally growing into who they are becoming as an adult, as a hero, as a man, is supposed to be. Like it's not supposed to be easy because in real life it's not easy. I know sometimes we go into anime because we want fantasies and power fantasies, things like that. But sometimes it's nice to get the human element. I agree with Terrence. The Deku's archetype is something I lean more into, and kind of a mixture of 2 and 3 as well, because this is something I've always loved, more so not just protagonists, but the secondary characters who are like very intelligent and are very helpful to the group. Like I would example like a Shikamaru or something like that, who is like, this guy's really intelligent. He's a dude who's in leadership. He's a dude who can help out in the background. He's underappreciated compared to the main cast, but when he's represented, he gets the job done on things he needs to do. Or Karama is a great example of that from Yu Yu Hakusho. Really, I mean, they couldn't do without him. Like he's an integral part of that team. And I feel like we love Yusuke, but he becomes kind of underappreciated because he put some groundwork when they were down. He put the team on his back and held them together. Those are the type of characters I really rally behind, like the guys who are the glue to the team. Sometimes it's protagonists, maybe like a Deku or somebody who glues everything together. Sometimes it's a background character. Those are the kind of characters I like.
Okay, I feel you.
Okay.
I feel like everybody's going with like a mix of 2 and 3. I'll say this: I never really thought about it, but Terrence is right in that it feels like some of this is going in waves. I do feel like the Asta, like the Goku, is still probably the most popular. Like you'll never. There's no world in which we don't continue to see Goku type Shonen protagonists. It's too easy to do. I've never really liked the Goku. I didn't like him as a kid. That's why I was a Vegeta fan. I used to hate when Vegeta used to get his dick put in the dirt. I'm like, man, this man getting bodied for no reason. Because I was like, Goku's just so fucking goofy. And it just like that shit. I know it's supposed to be endearing, but it kind of isn't. If you made me choose, and I guess I'm starting shit here as an anime fan, but if you made me choose between like good-natured Goku who just likes to fight and good-natured Superman who's like, no, I'm doing this because I'm a hero, I'm gonna pick Superman 100 times out of 100. Like, I like to fight. Like, yeah, so what? Like, you know, so does Finley. Like, I don't care about that. It's just not. I don't rock with it, man. Like, it's just like you just want to square up just to square up. Like, you damn near caused the universe to get wiped out. Like, I ain't with it. I would love to like say that my favorite, like I guess it would be a mix of 2 and 3, but like the reality, I mean, like I said, these don't have to be strict archetypes. They can be like Venn diagram where it's like sometimes you have a little crossover. So like Senku Ishigami from Dr. Stone would definitely be a mix of 2 and 3. Like he's both
Definitely
really smart.
Definitely.
But he's also super confident in himself. Like he believes in himself. He gonna talk his trash. Like he's always going, even though he has his limitations. Like they make sure Senku he's not the fighter. Like he can't square up at all. He got other people for that. He like, oh yeah, you go over there and handle that work because I'm not finna handle that. I got other stuff I gotta do. But like, of course, that's also not necessarily a battle shonen. But it is like it still very much has that vibe of shonen because you always have like more dangerous antagonists that they have to face, so that still kind of counts. But yeah, I mean, like overall, over the years, if I had to pick one of the 3 just to like vary up the answers a little bit. If I had to pick one of the three, it would be Deku, like the smart, not necessarily confident type character, because it does allow you to see more development over time. Will, what's your favorite, bro?
Between all three of them, I'm just like Terrence. Over the years, I've grown up and watched all these type of archetypes kind of just happen, and grown to love those who are the namesakes of said archetypes that we've listed here. And I've also grown to like love ones that aren't named them, but are kind of similar to them. But if I really just had to pick one out of them, I've really been enjoying 3 a lot. And really, me enjoying the Deku type is simply because I just like to see a character grow. I think it also comes with me just kind of being older and just kind of looking back like, man, homeboy got his powers out of nowhere and he just whooped everybody's ass for 30 episodes. But now I gotta watch this one here and he's getting his powers. He's not used to them, but he's learning. But he's getting better bit by bit. Every few episodes, he's learned something new and he's gotten better. He's beaten the next thing. He's done this. He's showing up his rival a little bit here and there until he finally gets ready to fully up to show up his rival. And I'm just like, I really watched this man grow. So I'm just kind of like, the Deku type is more my speed. If you had to ask me this like 17, 18 years ago, I would have definitely said Goku. I ain't gonna lie to you. But
Oh yeah.
but right now,
I ain't gonna lie, like I wasn't a Goku fan when I was a kid. I definitely was.
Yeah.
I know.
Let's
that's
go.
what
Be
I'm
honest
saying.
with you. I'm
Well.
gonna say this. It's a little bit off topic.
Sure.
Not only did I never like everybody has that like, oh yeah, I grew out of him over time. I grew out of Batman, and y'all know I hate Batman. Like I can't stand Batman. But I never liked Goku. Like even as a kid, I liked Tien. Tien wasn't even in shit, but I was like, his design cool. He know all these techniques. Like I like Tien. It didn't matter. Like it didn't make no sense. Like my screen name was Tien when I was in 6th grade and shit. I didn't care. Like that Goku was just never the guy for me. I don't know what it is. Like I can't understand it.
I mean,
Maybe it's a haircut. I don't know.
It might be.
Could be. But okay, so for you, it's the mix of the 2 and the 3, huh?
It can be a mix of 2 and 3, but if I had to right now, it's just straight up 3.
Okay. I feel you. We all kind of on the. What's up, dog?
I guess I do want to say in defense of one, that it's not that there's no growth that can come out of one,
Right.
of the Goku archetype. I'm saying, what's up?
Does one need a defense? Like, if you really want to, I understand. I respect it.
Yeah.
But if you're doing it because like one has a lot of fans, that's the problem.
Well, I'm kind of just throwing it
they
out
got too
there
many
just to
damn
kind of
fans.
throw it out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I was just
Break
saying
it
that
down,
I do because like Asta, I do like Asta as a character. Now, I will say the one thing about the Goku archetype that just annoys me is that you have this character that is really powerful, or they grow in power over time, but it just because they're so stupid, it just sometimes it just feels like just this person that's just going with the flow kind of thing, or just like they're very one track minded, I guess is what I'm getting at. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but yeah, I guess I just wanted to say that. That's all. Is that I do still like some characters that fall under that, like the Goku archetype, but it's just that in terms of development, I do lean more toward like the Deku type. But characters like Asta still can be interesting. Just to throw it out there as like a caveat kind of thing.
I'll support you a little bit.
yeah,
Go ahead,
say it.
Go ahead, Devin. Go ahead.
I just want to say on Terrence's point too, like I chose 3, but again, it's been something over time that watching anime, I actually rock with Goku. I ain't gonna lie, man. That's one of my favorite shows to watch as a kid, man. I rock with the boy Goku.
I rock with him.
But I will say, specifically with Naruto and Luffy, those 2 right there, especially Naruto. I think by the time you got to Shippuden, like once he got to Sage mode, I think to me that was a clear like growth with Naruto. He seemed a lot more wise. Like I know people give, it's Naruto, and I actually really like Naruto. I like Naruto as a character. The growth I know people saw, oh, he had the 9 tails in him. He was already chosen. He didn't know none of that when he was a child. He was outcast.
He was straight up ostracized. We seen him more on that swing than any other scene in the anime.
All
Nobody
right.
like that kid. And he was like, look, I'm finna go out here and do the same, man. So
All right.
I have always respected Naruto.
Before we get too far with this damn, he didn't know that. Nechi was right.
He didn't know that.
You got hard work and you got talent, and talent will always win out. unless the talent ain't working hard. But like when the talent works hard, it's gonna always beat the hard work. Like he was right. Like that whole thing, I remember that became like a debate. Like, was Neji right? Yes. It turned out Naruto, he didn't know it, but it didn't matter. He had the 9 tails. He was the fourth Hokage's son. He was like some kind of descendant of an ancient. He had all that shit working in his favor. Talking about some, nah, it's all about hard work. But shut up.
I mean,
Shut
again, he is not.
Hard
If
work.
he didn't know none of that,
Hard
he's
work.
just like, look, nobody. Also, the fact nobody liked him. Now to just set aside the fact he already got all these,
Now, that's a separate thing.
exactly.
As far as like him turning out to be a good person, like the fact that everybody hated him, he could have just been Gaara.
yeah, because that's
He could have
an
been Gaara part
emotional.
2.
Yeah,
He chose not to do that. So like
Yeah.
that part, that's true. I agree with you.
because that was an emotional thing he had to overcome. It's like nobody likes me, like period. Like
That's facts.
like maybe 1 or 2 people rock with me. That's it. Nobody, adults, children, nobody. So he
tried
could have
to-
just been like he could have been Nagato. He's like, all right, I got something for y'all.
They tried to
Slam
add a
his
bunch
whole
of
time.
filler later and make it so that he was friends with Shikamaru and Shoji and Kiba, but like, man, I ain't trying to hear that shit. In them first few episodes, he had no friends, did nobody like him. He was off
just
by
on that
himself.
swing. He was on that swing. Just
Yeah,
That
just
same
like that.
swing we saw for like hundreds of episodes.
He's like, I'm
They
gonna
always
do that.
reminded us of that damn swing.
But yeah, I
Remember?
just had to
He was
give
there.
those 2 specifically their props, and even Luffy. I know Luffy is kind of just a run forward type of guy. He's as they call him, a PC game is a W key. He just hold W going forward. But that man ride for his folks. He's like, you not gonna touch them pirates crew. You gonna get punched in the mouth. And he don't do no stuff like Goku. Hey son, go out there and fight Cell. No, he like, I got it.
Well,
I'll die trying to get it. If I don't get it, I'll die.
Luffy ain't got no kids, but I feel you where you're coming from. I'll say this in defense of the number 1. Because it isn't a straight archetype, because it isn't just you siloed off into this one thing, when you blend it with number 3, what you wind up with is like a character like Asta, who's like not really believed in at first and is weaker, and then over time you see that growth. It's just for him, the growth is always a lot quicker, and because they don't think, they don't even like let it bother them that they weak. They just be like, hey man, it don't matter, I'm gonna just keep trying, I'm gonna bang my head against the wall 1,000 times till I bust through to the other side. And so like that always works for like Asta or Naruto, like those type characters. Like they are more interesting to follow as opposed to like a Goku who's just like, I mean, he was always good. Like a lot of people forget this, especially when they do these dumbass things on Twitter where they'll be like, oh, who could win in a fight, Goku or Rock Lee? And it's like,
Oh no.
do Rock Lee like that? It's like
I swear, don't do that.
with even powers, who wins in a fight? I'm like, don't do Rock Lee
Oh,
like that.
I remember that when they were like without powers. It's like, did you all forget that Goku's like an actual martial artist? Not saying Rock Lee.
They didn't watch Dragon Ball.
they didn't watch Dragon Ball.
They didn't watch
Go.
Dragon
For martial artists.
What they forgot, and then like people, you definitely didn't watch Dragon Ball because like you watch Dragon Ball, you'll remember he was a child genius. Like he was good at everything in Dragon Ball. Like that was the thing that made the Saiyan Saga, like people like Saiyan Saga so much. Like I was never cold. I was always cold on it. But like with context of Dragon Ball, it flips it because it's like in Dragon Ball the whole time he was just the best at everything. Like from day one, he was the best. He was Grandpa Gohan. Like he was trained by him. He was top tier at that. And then later on, like he trained under Master Roshi, was top tier in that. Like Master Roshi, it took Master Roshi like decades to learn a Kamehameha. Goku saw it one time, was like, I got it.
I got it.
Now, did he knock out a whole fucking volcano or mountain
course
or
not.
range? What? No, but he could take off a wheel off a car. So I mean, you know. And even Master Roshi was like, bro, you know how long it took me to learn this? Like, you just
And
doing
you
it already? Like, you suck. Like, I hate you. Like, that, he was always a genius. And so, like, that's a little less interesting to follow than, like, someone who, like, you don't, like, everybody in the story doesn't believe in them and it's at the start. And they like, oh, well, I'm going to show y'all one way or the other.
Mhm.
So I do want to talk about favorite characters for a little bit. That's what this podcast is supposed to be about. You know, we 30 minutes in and hadn't talked about it yet. I'm gonna go ahead and go first with the favorite characters. I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I'm sure he's on somebody else's list. You know, Yusuke, the OG trash talker. I mean, I do think you probably could trace back the Yusuke a little further than him. Like Joseph Joestar, you could maybe try to make the argument that Joseph Joestar was like the first kind of like that, since that is from like the 80s and whatnot.
Mhm.
But I think he's definitely gonna be the what they call the trope namer. He's definitely that. He inspired a whole archetype unto himself. The cool thing about him was that he never stopped talking shit. He was also completely relatable early on. He wasn't the chosen one. He wasn't considered special. His life wasn't going nowhere. They even told you at the start he was going to hell until he sacrificed his life to save that kid. Like, that's how they, and even that was a great moment and showed you like what type of place the spirit world really was. And because they didn't understand what was in that man's heart. Like, he was a tough guy, but he was going to do what was right when it was, because like even when Botan, she was like, you say that kid's life? He was like, yeah, I say that kid like what you mean? Of course I was gonna save the kid's life. Like, that showed you what type of place spirit world really was. They just assumed, oh, you know, he came from bad stock, so he was just gonna be a bad kid. It's like, no, he just had been given a bad shake in life. And like over time, when you gave him the opportunity to prove himself, he stood up, he got up to the challenge time and time again. Like, he was always willing to stand up, stop trash people from their trash-like behavior, and he did it while talking smack to everybody. Like, I knew he was my favorite character when he fought Goki, the first villain in the show. Beat him up, knocked him clean out in his human form, and then Goki transformed into that demon form, and Yusuke was just standing there like, all right, boy, I know I hit you too hard for you to be standing up. Go ahead, get back on the ground. I was like, I was 14. I was like, man, Goku ain't got bars like this. Like, what you talking about? Like, you just looked at a villain and said, get back on the ground? Like, I done punched you. Like, you knocked out. It's over with. The fight over with. And of course, you know, Yusuke lost that fight. He had to go back. He had to get it back in the rematch. But like, just the fact that he was willing to talk shit like that meant a lot to me. And he grew as a character, but he never let his responsibilities change him to the point that he wasn't the same person anymore. Like, he didn't turn into some soft guy. He didn't try to be some superhero. I like those archetypes a lot, but that wasn't him. And they made sure that he stayed to that. He stuck to his guns. And I think even now, that's why, like, decades later, like, very few anime have the same staying power as Yu Yu Hakusho, and most of them have that through like cheating. Like, a lot of anime cheat to get that, like, oh, I'm on reruns for 1 billion years, and like, so I'm still remember like Yu Yu Hakusho hadn't been rerun in years. I think it got that one run on Cartoon Network. They finished it at like 4:00 in the morning.
The legendary run, yeah. I set my VCR for every single week.
It ran at like 4:00 in the morning when they finished that last 2 arcs, the arc and a half or whatever.
The disrespect.
Like, and then after that, they was like, oh, well, we done with this. We never showing it again. It's like, oh, okay, well, I mean, I guess that's what we doing. But like, still, people remembered it. People love that story. People love those characters. And I feel like a large part of that, in addition to how well it was written and how well, the other characters were written, was how likable and how understandable Yusuke was as a character. So definitely one of my favorites. Rakeem, what about you, bro?
So the first one I'm gonna have for my favorite characters list, is gonna come from Zatch Bell, the protagonist Kyo. So as I talked about previously in the last round, we talked about our favorite archetypes. I kind of like a mixture of like the smart character who's very useful. And that doesn't just apply to anime. I like that in everything. Like, I was always a fan of TMNT, Donatello. He's a smart guy. He makes the tech. He's the most useful guy on the team. Or Billy from Power Rangers. He helps them fix their stuff. Even when he stopped being a Power Ranger, he was still helping them after he was done, like guiding them, helping with stuff like that. And what I liked Kyo was like, he was the protagonist. So in this case, you have a kid who's like hyper intelligent. He got bullied at school. And as a result, in the beginning, he has this almost like aversion to having people around him because he doesn't trust anybody. The only person he can trust is with himself. And because he has such a high IQ, he's like, man, I don't need that. I got me. It kind of almost becomes almost like a selfish, self-indulgent thing because as a result of that. And why I like him as a character and I like Zatch Bell as a whole is because the whole situation he has with Zatch and becoming his the holder of his book and a spellcaster creates his character development because he has no choice but to rely on Zatch for combat because he can't fight. And Zatch has to rely on him to do the spells. And another reason I like this anime so much is because there's so much limitation on what they can do. They only have a certain amount of spells in the beginning and grow over time. So he has to actually use his intelligence that he's harped all these years in all these different situations. And it's just nice to see a protagonist use their intelligence and their IQ and their acumen and just focus that towards combat in a different way. Like I'm so tired of just seeing people just butt their heads against stuff over and over again and just win because they were stronger. No, you're not gonna be able to just beat everybody in hand-to-hand combat. Like in Zatch, but it might fight one dude who has a power of magnetism. So like you can't use the same strategy of lightning against him. Or you might have to deal with somebody who is super fast. So your spells aren't going to connect. So they have to adjust their strategy from here to there. But yeah, I just really liked him as a protagonist because it felt like as a kid, I was always the geek. So it was like, for once, it was like, oh, this guy kind of represents me, like the smart guy, the loner, the guy who gets picked on, and he's the main character. And through his development, you kind of can see it gets better. It doesn't always have to, you don't have to always be so isolated. And of course, anime has this trope of friendship over everything, always has had that. It's never going anywhere. But it's kind of nice for that to be integrated in the show so well, where the reliance on friendship is the impetus of his character growth. And you can see it naturally in the combat, episode to episode, his links to other characters, relationships to different people. I just really like that character. I like that design of that character. And it was just a very different, fresh take at that time.
That is a great choice. Kyo was never one of my favorites, but like I did like him because he was, like he said, like just a smart guy, and like he would win all his fights just through being like, I'm gonna outsmart you. Like I'm gonna have a plan, and my plan just gonna be better than whatever you got. And they often didn't even have a plan, so it was like really unfair because they was, like Keem said, they was always going with that Shonen. I'm gonna just bang my head against the wall and it's gonna work because I'm stronger. And Kyo was like, no, I'm just outsmart you. Like it don't make no difference how strong you are. You just take the L. So I
head, you 40 behind.
Yeah. Terrence, what about you, man? Who's your first favorite?
So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to go with a like I want to go with an old school protagonist, or like old school in a sense, old school and by like they're at least 20 years old at this point, and then I'm gonna try and go with a new school protagonist later. For the old school one, I'm going to go with Yami Yugi. He goes by many names. Could be
nice.
Yami Yugi, Dark Yugi, Atem, Pharaoh, whatever you would like to call him. For the sake of this, I'll just call him Yami. Him. He's him. Himgi. No. Yami is interesting because he exudes this. He plays by this one rule. Well, not him specifically, but his character, I feel like, plays off of just one trope and this one rule, which is the rule of cool. And it's not that ain't nothing with him when you really think about it makes sense. When it comes down to how he wins, he pulls out BS all the times with his strategies that don't actually, it wouldn't really work in the world of the Yu-Gi-Oh card game. His hair, him and regular Yugi, their hair is ridiculous and just nonsensical, but it looks cool. Even when in the Battle City saga, when he puts his little jacket over him, like just the way that it just kind of like blows in the wind.
It like looks like a cape.
Yeah, the way it just looks like a cape is like, it's so nonsensical, but it just looks cool. And that's the thing about Yami, is that he's just this main character that has always exuded coolness to me, regardless of what he's doing. And of course, in terms of like his character arc over time, he finds out more about his past, and at the end of the show, when it eventually becomes time for him to like fully separate from Yugi, it also his development also plays into Yugi's development, and how both of them have essentially grown from each other, and that's the way that it should go, is that they started off pretty much together and kind of like relying heavily on each other, and then toward the end of the show they realize that they're walking separate paths and they need to do their own thing. But yeah, Yami as a protagonist for me, yeah, I just feel like he's interesting because he just exudes that rule of cool, that nothing that he does has to make any sense as long as it looks cool while he's doing it. So that's why I would consider him one of my favorite protagonists. Is that it's not because he's like he is smart. And I guess he is like, what would you call it? I guess he is like, in terms of like games, he is a genius. I guess he is the king of games. So I mean, he is technically a genius.
I mean, his superpower was that he couldn't lose. Like that was the power of the Millennium Item. I mean,
the power of BS.
Literally couldn't lose.
Like I said, like when it comes to him, everything is for the most part nonsensical. But just because he has such a cool way of doing it, it just makes him a character that you want to look up to and just follow along. I remember, I mean, because of Yami, I mean, I got into the Yu-Gi-Oh card game. Like I enjoyed playing it and pretending to be Yami when I was growing up. You know, I try and get the deep voice like Dan Green, be kind, Kaiba. Of course, I can't sound like that. My voice is nowhere near
You
as
fell
cool
into
as,
my trap card.
nowhere near as cool as Dan Green. But yeah, so I definitely say Yami is one of my favorite shonen protagonists, just because just design and just so many things that are just cool about him. And I think at the end of the day, that is something that really matters in terms of a protagonist that you like. Is there has to be something cool about them that attracts you to them, whether it's their look, who they are as like their personality, etc.
I think at least 50% of why people like Yami is because of Dan Green. I'm not gonna lie. Like,
yeah, probably so.
I'm sure,
I
like,
wouldn't be surprised.
he did I'm sure the Japanese voice actor did a great job, but like, I think you needed that meme of Dan Green just, Kaiba, that type shit. Like, you needed that to make that work.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that both you and Rakeem, y'all both picked characters that needed someone else to survive in their world. So like, Kyo, he needed Zatch. Otherwise, like, it wasn't gonna work. It was, they literally needed each other to survive. And like you said, Yami and Yugi, they both needed each other to survive. Otherwise, it was like they literally, like, Yugi could have survived without Yami, but Yami couldn't have survived without Yugi. Like, he needed him to like do anything, to like go back to the past, like all of that. Like, he needed that to get his spirit free. Well, I say go back to the past to get it to free his spirit. He needed Yugi for sure. So that was pretty cool. And it shows you that there is more than just those three archetypes out there. If anything, you might say Yami was more like a mix of 2 and 3, but like he could, you could say he was his own character like that, really.
Yeah.
Will, what's your favorite, bro?
All right, so this is kind of a bit of a tough one because after like researching so many shonen shows and realizing how many I've watched over the years, I'm just like, man, where do I start?
It was definitely a tough one for me, so I feel your pain.
So I was like, where do I start? Who do I pick? And I'm like, you know what? Let's start with a show that I ended up watching due to the fact that I was sick from some rainy weather one day, and we're gonna talk about a sports anime. Let's talk Kuroko no Basket.
All right.
Now, I love this show. I literally laid in bed with a snotty nose and watched this show from like front to back. Like, I'll never forget that. And I loved every bit of it. And they have a whole set of characters there, but there's two in particular. There's our boy Kuroko, then there's also that boy Tiger. If I had to pick between them two, it would have to be Tiger. I pick him because he's like the new guy that just kind of walks in. If I had to say so myself, like, he's the new one. He steps in, and they're both at Seirin High School, getting ready to start up, get this basketball thing on the road. There's a tournament coming up, and they want to prove that they're the best. But that first season handles itself fine. They do good, but that second season comes up, that's where Tiger really shines because he starts really coming into his own. He starts seeing his abilities. He starts knowing what it is he can do around his teammates, along with Kuroko being, the Phantom Six Man from being in that middle school team, the Generation of Miracles. You know what I'm saying? Out there on the court making them passes, just, he's there, but he's not there. People just like, where'd that little guy with the white hair go? He over there in the corner lobbing off a pass to Tiger. And when them two met up, when him and Aomine met up and they slid into the zone, my God, I was staring at that TV like this. It was like watching Dragon Ball Z again to me. I was just like, look at this. These who's on the court going at it. Eyes, streaking, speed, crossovers, layups, everything. I was just like, how did you manage to put in someone? You had me focus on this little man here, but I'm more worried about his big friend over here that can dunk from like 30 feet off in the air and accurately throw it in the hoop just and it's in there. So I'm like, he's an amazing character, I think. I can't speak much more on the movie and how they kind of made him work there. I can't speak on the movie because I hadn't watched the movie yet because that movie was like the last thing they did for the show. But Tiger Kagami, very interesting character, very fun character to watch. If you haven't watched Kuroko no Basket, y'all people out there, go ahead and watch it, please. I implore you. It's really good.
It is one of the most popular series out there for a reason.
Yeah, it is, but it's literally basketball with superpowers. I kid you not. Like, if you wanted to avoid sports anime, don't avoid this one. Like, not all of them play that regular role. this one right here literally takes basketball and throws it out there. It's literally Dragon Ball Z on the basketball court. Is NBA Jam in anime fashion. Go watch it, please. It's great.
It's like watching Kuroko and Tiger is kind of like watching Chris Paul and Blake Griffin when they were on the Clippers together. That kind of relationship.
I see what you're getting there. Yeah,
because he played just like Blake Griffin's known for dunking the ball, and Chris Paul is one of those great point guards who can facilitate.
Lob City.
Lob City. That was the name of that team. Yeah.
Basically, the image with Wade passing to LeBron, he dunking. That's basically what
that's their relationship. Yeah.
Devin, what about you, man? What's your favorite, bro?
Man, this is also kind of a hard list for me as well. The more I keep thinking about it, the more Shonen I keep adding to the list. But I know this one has got to be one of my picks because this is literally my favorite anime. Apparently, I already know y'all know this famous saying, man, Mr. Oh my God, oh no, Mr. Joseph Joestar, man. When I tell you this character, first off, this anime, when I first started watching, I was enthralled by it. I couldn't stop watching. I just had to, one episode finished, start the next one. But specifically when Joseph entered this scene, first episode, this man is fighting the vampires. Vampire talking to me, man, I'm a vampire, man. I got face. Like, all right, bet I got a tummy gun. I was like, hold up, wait a minute. What is happening? You got a bowler and a tummy gun. It's such a weird combination.
That was beautiful.
But it's like
crazy.
The show was so interesting because it's like it's a really serious show. Like there's some stuff going on, but it's really comical. Like there's a lot of funny stuff, and Joseph is like. He is like by far the most comical like protagonist out of the whole series. Jonathan, like the first episode, he was a little more like grounded. Even Josuke, he's like, yeah, I'm cool. I'm 16, but I look like I'm 35. What you gonna do? Like, and then of course when they changed the art style, they made Josuke look smaller. They made him look like regular size. But anyway, Joseph. One of my favorite scenes in all of anime. This man is fighting the Pillarman. The Pillarman step on the scene. He's like godly, almost immortal beings. Oh man, what do we do? I'm just a man. This man was fighting. I think it was Wamu.
Yeah,
this man on the ground.
Wham.
This man on the the Wamu was like, man, you just a poorly human being. I'm gonna wipe the floor with you, man. So Joseph on the ground. Man, they didn't kill the protagonist. Nah, man, They show the scene, like every scene is like, wait, did he move? He's like, Wamu's like, no, he's dead. There's no way he's alive. They cut back to the scene again. They showed Joseph laying behind Wamu. He's like, wait, he's moving. He was not right there. This man literally played dead, trying to crawl away from this all-powerful being. I'm like, I've never seen this in my life. He's just like, hey, I'm out. I lost. I can't beat him. So I'm just gonna get out of here. I'm like, that junk had me in tears. And I was like, bro, this is one of the most hilarious things I've ever seen in my life. Wamu gets like almost intrigued, but also offended. And he's like, I'm gonna put this little ring on your heart. So you're gonna have to beat us. If you don't beat us, it's gonna like explode and you just gonna die. It's like, all right, well, I guess I gotta beat y'all somehow. So I pulled up some quotes. Like this man has some crazy stuff in it. I want to say this is like the last when they beat cars. If I'm not mistaken, I think this is when they beat cars. He has a line that says, where is it? He says, everything worked out according to plan. From the very beginning, and then has in quotations, a parenthesis says, I just got lucky, but thinking how smart him would drive cars nuts. So, because you talk about failing forward, it didn't want like he was no scrub, but against the Pillarman, he was a scrub. Because it's like, what are we going to do against him? I got this Hamon.
Context, he was a scrub.
Yeah. It was like, he shouldn't have won. He beat Carr. Carr turned into like basically God in the universe, and he still won. So he failed forward. He's like, yeah, everything worked according to my plan. I'm gonna just let him think that. I just actually this was just a total accident. I got lucky on this one.
Sound a lot like Hercule.
Hercule, but I guess a lot cooler and a lot more efficient because yeah, actually you're right. Hercule should have died a lot of times. Hercule should not be alive.
Definitely.
When Goku and Kim was fighting, Hercule should have died. But Actually, probably should die when Cell came on the scene.
He got in the ring with Cell, and Cell just knocked him back, and it's like, you should be dead.
He should have died. And then when he come in with his grandson, he's still just he's got the gray beard now, but he's still just as much of a hoot. This is when he gets his most notably famous in this season with the oh my god, like the scene between him and Abdul getting like magnetize each other in the street with the kids. They're like, oh wait, hold up, stop, not in front of the children. So he's definitely got to be one of my favorites, man. The character's like, and also in that show he didn't have like the most powerful stand like battle wise, but it was like
definitely didn't.
It had like a lot of other uses
utility.
That was like utility to it.
Guy.
But he still had hands though. Like he was older, but he still was like 250 pounds of muscle, 7 feet tall, just like his grandson apparently. But yeah, man, he was still a hootenette, funny character. Yeah, I definitely got I had so many I wanted to pick, but I had to start with Joseph. That's the one right there.
I like Joseph Joestar, but the exact episode that Devin was describing is the exact reason why I was like, all right, I just because like I have this thing where if the bad guy get the little MacGuffin that he was trying to get, I'm like, well, that should be over. Like, you shouldn't have wrote it that way. And if he get it, like, that should be over. You should just kill the hero and we move on. It's a sad ending. I'm sorry. Cars got the thing that he was trying to get, where they had told you over and over, if he get this, that's game. We can't beat him. And he, like Devin said, he turned into a god. And then somehow everything worked in Joseph's favor. Like just like it man, it sound like a mix of what Devin described in the Bible. Everything worked to Joseph's favor. Cause like, man, it just, I'm like, what is going on? Like he did everything. Like he failed forward. That is what happened. Cause like he should have lost. Like Cars got that little red stone or whatever it was. Turn him into like this invincible. I can be out in the daylight. Like I'm not gonna be stopped. And then some kind of luck happened that involved like some volcanic gases that propelled dude out into the sky, and then it like knocked him out of the atmosphere and towards the sun. And it was like, yeah, that's it for him. I'm like, what the fuck did I just watch? I still don't know. Man, you never lied. That title had never been more accurate. I was like, I don't know what I just seen.
To this day, I still don't know what even caused that. Like, I've read this and I watched it, and I'm just like, I still don't know how he managed that.
I watched it not too long ago, and I was like, what? I'm back. Like, it made a little more sense the second time I seen it, but I was still like, hell no.
Ain't no way.
Hell no, you should have got this. But I mean, you know, it was what it was. Rakeem, what's up, man? Give me a second.
All right. So for my second, I had to think about this because I was like, I think 2 or 3 they were bouncing around in my head. Then I got to 2, and I realized they're basically the same character. And those 2 were Vasher Stampede and Kenshin Imura. And I mean about it.
Okay, hold on. So
yeah.
I wanted to, because of what happened with Watsuki, like the creator of Kenshin.
Yeah.
I was gonna talk about this like as almost a separate archetype unto itself. Like the super talented. I'm actually better than everybody I fight, but I'm a pacifist, and so I don't want to fight. Like that was a whole archetype unto itself in the late 90s and early 2000s. Bash, Kenshin. There's this other character. What was the name of this chick? Grenadier, like from the Grenadier anime.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about, but I can't think of her name.
You know what the Kendo Rushina, that was her name, and she was just like Vash. She was like hyper talented, better than everybody else. I almost made that an archetype unto itself because for a while those were protagonists out there. Yeah. Carry on, Keem.
Yeah. So I really want to. I guess I want to harp on like Vasher Stampede. I found that character so fascinating because he had so much power, and he knew how powerful he was and how dangerous it was, and he knew he could not let that get out. So he would make himself look like a fool. He would act like he wasn't that strong. He would try to stay out of trouble. Trouble just kept coming to him. In the original anime, I still haven't finished Stampede, so I won't bring up Stampede as much. But the original anime, when he had the insurance ladies with him, I always thought it was so hilarious. They would tell him behind him to deal with all the damage that would come from the incidents that he never intended to happen. Like he really tried to stay out of it, and trouble just kept finding him. But I think what I really like that character is for what he went through with his brother and the situation he was in before, and translating into a society where he knows he doesn't necessarily quite fit in because of how powerful he is. It's almost like a God complex. Like, I have to have more, like the Superman thing, really similar to the Superman thing, where I know what I can do and my abilities, but I have a responsibility to everyone around me to not use my abilities, so I don't hurt anyone, and so that everyone around me can be safe and I can stay low key. But if push comes to shove, I will do this, protect people I care about and protect other people. I really like that. To me, that's the definition of heroism. Like, a lot of heroes, like we talk about with Goku, not just fight against Goku. There's other heroes who definitely like this. They seem don't really care about the collateral damage sometimes, or they don't care about the people in. They don't care about the people in the middle. They're not thinking about it because they're like so honed in on the combat or taking out the villain. And I get that character archetype because it's like reliability, just always being there to be the big person. But there's a special place for people who think outside of themselves, even though they're in a superior position. It's kind of like having a supervisor or a manager who's not a dick, who understands what it's like to work under somebody. You know what I mean? Like, we've had supervisor managers who were trash, but you get that one supervisor who like, I get it. I was there. I'll never treat you like that. I'll work with you. I'm right there with you. Even though I'm technically in a higher position than you, I don't think of myself higher than you. I think of myself even than you. I know I have responsibility over you as well. That's kind of how I think of that character archetype. And I remember just really enjoying Vash Stampede. He was like he was cracking jokes all the time, like it was Spider-Man. He was cracking jokes all the time. He was dodging stuff, like he had spidey senses and acting a fool, and stuff would fall on his head. But at the end of the day, when he really needed to focus, like, hey, enough games. He'd take him out. So yeah, I gotta give a shout out to him. Kenshin, of course, we already know about the controversy with his creator. So same thing, really. Same character. I can't really. Same thing with the Batosai thing, and
still silly, still overpowered. Always like, I'm gonna do it because I want to protect people. I would rather just like not be involved, keep the destruction and all that away from me. But I do it because I feel like I have to.
Right. It's basically a number one who acts like he's a number three.
That's a good way to put that.
That's a good way to put that.
Yeah.
For real.
But yeah, since I was dancing those two characters and they're basically the same, that's why I brought them up. So Vash Stampede, Kenshin, and more, those would be kind of my second choice. Yeah.
It was a great choice just in general.
Very nice.
Because I mean, like I said, if I could have, without that nonsense that the Kenshin creator had gotten into, I definitely would have brought him up because it was just such a great archetype. Like, probably if I had kept that archetype, it would be my favorite. Like, the whole, like, it, because their growth is different. Like, the way that they develop is different. Because, like, when you have Kenshin and Vash, in both cases, when you think of those characters, there is no more getting stronger. Right. They're at the apex of this. Like, Kenshin, he learned a couple more techniques. He finished learning the Hita Mitsurugi style. But, like, even still, before he learned it, like, he didn't really need it to fight any enemies he had fought. He was winning anyway. And, like, Vash didn't need that. Like, the whole thing for both of those characters and Tendo Urushina from Grenadier, like, the whole thing for them is, can I do this while maintaining the standard that I set? I'm not going to take a life. I don't want to kill anybody. Even though fights in these universes are deadly and often end in death, I'm not going to take a life. And they were so talented and so powerful that they could stick to it. But that was always the test. What's up, Rakeem?
The other side of that with both of those characters is like, because of my past, whether I was in a war or like this incident that killed so many people or something like that, can I integrate into society? Can I ever be a regular person? Will that shadow ever come over? That's also a part of that character development. And it's basically like, can they be more vulnerable? Like, their character growth is in vulnerability, allowing people in, even though they have this shadow over their past. They don't let that define who they are in the present. I think that's a great part of that character archetype too.
Oh yeah,
that is an excellent point. The other reason why I didn't include them is because technically, Trigun isn't a shonen. It started as a shonen for like 2 or 3 years, like 95, 97. It was published in, don't make me lie, I'm not gonna remember, but it was published in a Shonen magazine, and not Shonen Jump, but it was published in a Shonen magazine for like 2 or 3 years, and then the next 10 years, basically, it was published as Trigun Maximum in a seinen manga because they was like, so like I was like, technically this don't count, but I mean, I wasn't gonna tell nobody that they couldn't pick them because I just didn't like a lot of people might see him as a shonen protagonist anyway.
I will
What's
say,
up,
to be
Will?
fair, on like the Mal list, I did see Trigun pop up. So there's people who just tossed him in the Shonen anyway.
Honestly, to quote you, Sage, on your information about it, you were right. It did run in a Shonen magazine from 95 to 97.
Thank you. Which one?
Month. Let's see. It says monthly Shonen Captain.
Okay.
Monthly Shonen
Okay.
Captain.
I knew it was monthly something, but I was like, I don't make me remember, because like after Shonen Magazine and Shonen Sunday, I start to get. I'm like, all right, look, I had to look it up. I don't remember, but yeah, I did remember it was like and then I think the Seinen Magazine was Young King Hours, if I'm not mistaken.
That is correct. It did that in October of 97 and lasted all the way to 07.
Yeah, so like for a long time, but I mean, like the thing is, as far as Mal putting it under Shonen. The way that plays out is the anime came out in 98, pretty much probably only loosely adapted the Shonen version of it. By the time it was doing the Seinen stuff, the anime had stopped. They had moved on. So technically the anime is a Shonen anime. So there you go. Terrence, what's your number 2, bro?
All right, so I'll go with my new school pick this time.
Okay.
And it's actually one that you touched on, Sage. You actually went into it very well, so I'll just kind of piggyback off of you. And that's Senku Ishigami from Dr. Stone. What makes Senku interesting is that, yeah, he kind of falls... He is a mixture of the Deku and the Yusuke archetypes. And in that he's extremely smart, but he's not like... You know how they say,
he's
like,
not timid or soft or none of that. He just
you know how they say,
confident.
like, book smart but not street smart, and in this case, I mean, he has a little bit of both. Like, he's not stupid about the streets. So,
Sure.
And with Senku, what's interesting about him is that he doesn't let his intelligence turn him into like a very arrogant kind of character, because it's very easy for somebody who is like, you know, smarter than everyone in the show to have this feeling of I'm better than you. And in some sense that can be a thing, but he's always about, and you said this, Sage, is that he recognizes his weaknesses, the areas that he's not the strongest at. Like in terms of strength, he's not that guy. In terms of doing certain experiments, he can't just do them on his own. He needs a partner. And so he brings in all these people that can help cover his weaknesses, and as a result, you know, he just builds up this community that just continues to grow and grow under his watch. And he's just a really talented character. It's really one thing that I just really like about the Dr. Stone show is just how inspirational it is. And this is something that I've talked about before, is that it really shows how strong the human spirit can be, like when everything is stripped away. You know, the fact that the earth was pretty much reverted back to the Stone Ages, essentially, and all the old technology and stuff that, you know, people took for granted then, it's gone. You're starting over from zero. And Senku, he has a knowledge of everything from back then, and it's a matter of taking what he has in front of him and making it work, and kind of like bringing that technology slowly back and introducing it to other people. It's another thing that he doesn't keep the knowledge to himself. He's always about teaching others and showing them how to do different things that they never would have thought of, just because, you know, for them, they didn't grow up with any kind of technology or any science. So they didn't know about certain things until he came along. And so, yeah, Senku to me is just one of those really cool new shonen protagonists that shows that you don't have to be a Goku type, the type that, you know, bangs his head against the wall until your head eventually goes through. And, you know, you don't have to be full on like a Yusuke type where, you know, you're not like you're not book smart, but you're street smart. In his case, he kind of embodies, like I said, like the best of those two worlds, where he has like that book sense, but he also has common sense. And yeah, I just think that Senku is a really cool character. You know, he's kind of like Yugi in that regard, that he has the nonsensical hair, and it's not as cool. It's not as cool as Yugi's. I mean, he pretty much looks like an onion
hair,
and that's kind of the joke. But yeah, it still kind of works for him. And if anything, it makes him stand out as a main character, which I'm sure is the intent. You know, it's because he doesn't look like anyone else in the show. No one else has quite that ridiculous looking of hair.
He's him.
Yeah, but Yeah, I'll definitely go with Senku as one of my favorite protagonists right now, especially from like the new school of Shonen, just because it's really cool to see that kind of intelligence on display. And he's not, and people who, they talk about Deku being too much of a crybaby despite him being so smart. Look, Senku's right there. He doesn't he will shed a tear when the time comes. I guess that's another thing I want to bring up is I really like the relationship that he has with his dad, his adoptive father.
That was a great episode.
Yeah, that's not something you normally get in a shonen. Usually if the dad is there, it's
he's not really there.
Yeah.
Like his dad has been dead for what, like 2,000 years or something like that?
Well, he was there at one point, he was there until,
he raised him until that one part. And then of course they, when everybody gets turned to stone, his dad lands back on Earth and, he has to live by himself.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, you are right. That was a very powerful episode. And that's just another, thing for Senku is why he's a great protagonist in my opinion. So I'm glad that he's one of those that's in the new Shonen pack.
I definitely agree. I'm glad that Dr. Stone is back. I need to catch up on it.
Same.
I got too far ahead in the manga, and so you know how that goes. I will also agree as far as like the triumph of the human spirit part. There's this one scene where Senku talks to Chrome, and he relates to Chrome because Chrome is trying to be the first scientist of this new generation of humans, and he's like, Chrome is finally like, I guess he finally got him and Chrome alone, and so he talks to Chrome and he explains everything that humanity has lost, like all the technology, all the things they were capable of doing, and it's just this really inspiring thing to have seen, like just all the things that all the achievements that we had gotten over the years, and then just for it to all be stripped away, and Chrome is just sitting there like baffled and dumbfounded at everything they lost, and he just starts crying because he's like, fuck, we lost everything. And Senku's like, don't worry, I'm gonna get it all back. And he's the kind of character that you believe, like when he says I'm gonna get it all back, that he does. And like, surprise, like his goal of course is to like go to the moon, and then you can't go to the moon without getting all that tech back. So I guess that's what he winds up doing, even without like seeing the ending, because I hadn't finished the manga either. But like that's just, I just assume
manga isn't over, is it?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, it is?
It is?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's been over a while.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
The breaks are happening because of the animation studio, I believe, not because the manga is like.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not like My Hero where it's like the manga's still going. Like, no, it's over.
Oh, okay. Wow, I didn't know that it ended.
I think Dr. Stone, let me be sure. I don't want to like lie to y'all. Okay, Dr. Stone ended last year in March.
Okay.
So it's been over for a good little bit. And they just, of course, the animation studio has to do its thing. So
yeah. I guess it's one of those shows that that was during that period where people were talking about Shonen Jump being in trouble because a lot of stuff was ending.
That is one of those shows where it's like, man,
so that makes sense. Because that Promised Neverland and a couple of other. I know it's a side note, but yeah, there was a lot that was ending during that time. Yeah.
Black Clover on its way out, My Hero on its way out. Like it's basically just One Piece.
Wow.
Keeping the ship going.
One Piece.
I mean, it's some new series coming up like Mashley and whatnot, but like for the most part, it's One Piece keeping the ship afloat, I guess. Devin, what's your number 2, bro?
Man, this last one is kind of hard for me because three I really want to pick. I got strong.
I mean, we can do a lightning round afterwards, so just
yeah, we can do that.
hit us with your strongest one.
Okay.
The one that really sticks with you.
Trust me, it was hard for me to narrow it down. So I mean, there's plenty you can choose from, but just
I'm gonna just say Mob for this one.
Okay.
I really, that's one of my favorite like newer anime of like the past few years. Really good show. Again, he's a protagonist. Mob is very conserved. He's like timid, but if you go to 100%, you better run for the fences. It's basically like when he go to 100%, he's basically like Popeye. When Popeye used to say, "That's all I can stand because I can't stand
no more."
I can't stand no more.
That's what Mob is. And I like his throughout the third season. I think I finished it a few months ago. He's actually he's a good person, very kind-hearted. He's pretty intelligent. The only thing is he's kind of unsure of himself. Sometimes he kind of let people make decisions for him, like his freaking boss, who is like not even a medium. He doesn't even have any
Fucking
spiritual
Reagan.
power, but he's like got this business and basically just making money off the back of Mob. And Mob doesn't even really figure. I don't think he finds it out till like later on. I want to say maybe the second. I know he finds out in the last season. And I think he actually was kind of like a little upset him. I think for just a little bit, like, bro, you wait.
Yeah, in the second season there was a bit of a drift between them.
Yeah. It's like, bro, you can't see no goals or nothing. You just got me out here just basically fighting demons and stuff, and I'm just like, I'm thinking you. But it's also a very funny show. It's another one of them shows where it's funny, but there's some serious stuff going on. Some of the best fights I've seen also. You might not think, oh, but man, some of them, like that second season, they was out there fighting. That last fight, they was fighting, boy. I thought this was Dragon Ball Z for a second. I thought this was just some people with telekinetic power. They fighting. But yeah, like the first season, I never forget. Me and our good friend James, we first watched the first episode and we laughed tears because there was this part where they went into this tunnel and this biker gang had died because they all died because they ran over a banana peel. One single banana peel killed like 15 to 30 bikers. And we was like, some more kind of Mario Kart? And like the tunnel was full of their ghosts, their spirits. And they just showed the flash, but they's like, yeah, we got here right having a good time, guys. Nice breeze, man. Let's go get us some Dr. Peppers, man. That one banana peel was like, oh, you thought, snip. Oh, everybody died. I'm like, what kind of Mario Kart double dash nonsense is this?
Everybody.
But back to specifically, like I said, he's unsure of himself. People sometimes he kind of like doesn't have an identity. He also has a younger brother who's like the cooler, more, the girls like him more. He's more, attracted to the girls. And I think he actually had powers too, not on the level of Mob, but I think he did have powers that kind of got. I think he kind of like manifested like I think in the second season.
Yeah.
But the third season is the one that he actually started to kind of thinking for himself more, starting not to let everybody make decisions for him. And I just like that whole dynamic of like, even at the third season, he had like this thing where this power inside of him that was like kind of something he was trying to suppress got unleashed, and it was doggone about to like destroy the whole city, like just nothing but chaos. He kind of had his internal battle. He got through and he kind of calmed this beast that was inside of him. And it's funny because I kind of relate to the character a little bit because he would have times where like some people would say something to him and he wouldn't get mad. He was like very slow to get mad. That was the whole gimmick with 100%. Somebody would say something, do something he didn't like, and he would it'll go like to 25.
Like
yeah, like 30%. Like, I'll eat 30%. Then there was some moments in the show he would go from like 30 to 70. He's like, all right now. I'm at 70 now, so 30 more percent is about to be on popping. But yeah, like I said, just that internal battle of him like trying to be more sure of himself. He even had some love interest. Once where this girl was like, I think he was playing one as like she liked him and she really didn't. I think he actually liked her, so he kind of struggled with like people like messing with his emotions, like him liking this girl and not knowing if she likes him. So it was a lot of real world emotion type stuff he was dealing with. But I think at the third season, he kind of like became more sure of himself. He kind of calmed the beast inside of him to like kind of control it to where it's not could just destroy everything. So I think Mob, I definitely like that character. He was just such a mild-mannered person. He wasn't no jerk. And again, he knew what was inside of him. He was another one of the characters like, I know what's inside of me. If I get to 100%, somebody finna start running. So he never really wanted to go there, but it was just certain situations that would just force him to get to that 100%. And he really wasn't bad at early. That final seasons when he like I said, something happened where he just like became just like almost like gone when he went the full dope mode. It was kind of like that. He just couldn't control it. Even kind of more so than that, because Gon could still kind of control, but when he was just punching Nerapito just one. Was he just rock?
First comes rock.
And Killer would come on like, hey, what you doing, Gun? Rock.
Ain't no paper.
Rock. So yeah, I definitely gotta give my props to my boy Mob, man.
All right, okay. All right, for me, I brought this character up and really like this archetype up. Negi from Negima. A lot of people probably haven't seen this show, and if you had, seeing the show is not the same as reading the manga. Unfortunately, so it's one of those mini shows from the 2000s, like Claymore or Air Gear or Tenjo Tenge, where it's just like you see the anime and you like only got like a glimpse of what the full universe is like, because the whole point of the anime is to market the manga, not for you to see like the whole story. So like it's one of those. Negi from Negima is like one of my favorite characters. I'm happy that the archetype in general has become more popular lately. There's a ton of potential to me in putting a character who isn't really a fighter in a universe where it's like, all right, you're in a story now where combat resolves pretty much every conflict. And if you've never seen Negi, he's a lot like Kenichi from History's Greatest Disciple, except way more talented in other stuff. Like at the start of his series, he's like a child genius, and he's trying to he's passed all his tests to become a wizard. And the last thing he has to do is teach at this all-girls academy and he's like 10 years old. And he's going to be teaching like a group of like middle schoolers, right? And it's just one of those shows where it's like a whole bunch of weird harem shenanigans ensue, because the creator is the creator of Love Hina, like this super popular harem series from like the late 90s, early 2000s. And like the creator, like his editor wanted him to do another harem, and he didn't want to do another harem. He wanted to do a battle manga. And so like he started out setting things up so that it would be a harem, and then you get about 13, 14 chapters in, and it's like a hard swerve into like being a battle shonen and shit like that. And so like in the manga, like in the anime, you never really get to see too much beyond the harem shenanigans. In the manga, though, they delve deeper into the world, and Negi finds himself challenged by all these people who are way stronger than him. He's a character that is constantly pulled out of his combat zone in his comfort zone, rather, in every fight he's in. He's facing people who are always in their comfort zone because they are fighters. Like they've been told they have to fight their whole life, or they've been in situations where they have to fight their whole life. And so like he's just this kid who's trying to figure out this world, and he finds out, despite initially being a child genius, like he enters this new world of like fights and like magic spells that are like way more dangerous and more powerful than anything he's ever been introduced to. And he's constantly having to learn from new people. Like over time, you discover all the girls in the class, they have like unique connections to like the magical world that makes them skilled in one way or another. One is like a ninja, like a Jonin ninja from her clan. She's like a Jonin in her clan. Another is just like a martial arts master. And even though he's the teacher, he becomes the kid that's learning from them. And he's like, you can see it early on in the manga, like he's losing sleep. He's not doing everything he's supposed to. He's not eating because he's just too busy trying to train under them to become a more capable fighter, because like the situation started arising that he needs to like be able to fight. And so you see it like raises the tension and the drama of the series. It makes me wish we got a full adaptation, because it was so cool seeing him grow up like that and seeing him have to constantly, like, there are fights where he's in where you're like, oh man, this ridiculous. This getting out of hand. But it's so cool because he does have to think his way out of the situation. And over time, he does become like still the strongest person on the show or the manga. He becomes like the strongest character, but it's because he has his intelligence at the same time that he's able to compete. Like, because like even though he's the strongest protagonist, he's not as strong as the antagonist. And so he has to come up with ways like, okay, well, how am I going to win this fight? Even though I'm normally not supposed to be able to win this fight. Like there are certain fights that he's in where it just feels so against him, and yet he just outsmarts the enemy every time. And it's just a favorite of mine. And so, yeah, that's definitely my number two. The lightning round, I'll get into like the last two characters that I like. Will, what's your last character before we enter the lightning round?
All right, so before the lightning round, I must admit, like I said before earlier, this was tough for me, and I had like a long list. But if I had to pick one, I'm gonna go for someone that's currently running. And for someone that's currently running right now, I really do like Tanjiro Kamado quite a bit.
Tanjiro,
great
I
character.
like him. I love him a lot because I feel like I aside from watching him develop as a fighter and more or less, develop as a person, I feel like you can kind of you can get behind him. You can get behind him all the way due to like from his upbringing, from him not having his father growing up, then to end up losing his whole family minus his eldest sister. I'll say his eldest sister out of the ones he has, and having to deal with some demon out here roaming around But some demon just having to cause this problem, take his family away from him, turn his sister into one of said demons, and then having to learn everything he can from the young age of 13 of having to take on this level of tragedy in his life and then continue to do it on and on and on until, well, I can't speak for people who've read the manga up to this point. I can't speak for it myself. Or at least, if you've been on anime only, you know exactly where he's at right now, what he's doing at the Swordsmith Village and whatnot. And it's just fun to watch him because he can be silly. He can be silly when it come time, but he also has his moments after, like, he met the Hashira, like the first time he met the Hashira and they had him tied up and he just busted out of the ropes and was just like, I don't know why y'all got me tied up, but I know who y'all are. I know y'all are great. Put some respect on me, because this is my show. That's pretty much what he did in that moment. He was just like, I might not be a Hashira, but if one of y'all cross me, don't. It's same thing with the fight in the red light district against that I can't think of the demons now. I know it starts with a G if I'm not mistaken. Y'all probably know it more than I do.
Daki?
Not her brother.
Oh.
Shit. Well, I mean, her brother, it could be that, but it's also Daki too, because like he also has his moments where he can get like extremely serious as well too. Where like he can be the lighthearted, he can be the empathetic one, but during that time with that fight against Daki, thank you, Yutaro. I couldn't think of his name. I knew it was something, but in that time he was fighting Daki and he held that sword up and he had that bloodshot look in his eye, like. It's like he looked at her like, I can't stand you right now. You and these ribbons. If I cut through each one, I'm gonna get your head sooner or later. And he just stood there and just locked in and just went to swinging. And I'm just like, you might want to stop messing with him. he might just kill you for real here. So for me, it's the fact that he's such an empathetic character. It's the fact that I can somewhat relate to him in a sense. It's the fact that I know I can get behind him. He's that character that I will not accept any slander on. I'm gonna be honest with you, because I'm sick of all the slander on him and Deku. To be honest with you, yes, we get it. They cry, but that makes them human, and they're teenagers. Like Keem has said numerous times about Deku, they're teenagers. They're not supposed to take family deaths and certain little things on the chin and be like, it is what it is, which is the 2023 male saying, and when shit go wrong, it is what it is. He ain't gonna say that. He gonna look at it like, there's some things I couldn't do, there's some things I can do, but I will get there eventually. So for me, Tanjiro is literally the personification of perseverance. I can do it. Just let me get there.
I rock with that. What's up, Terrence?
What's up?
I would say one thing that's really cool about Tanjiro is that it's not that he's like super smart, but the way that he thinks when he's in battle is clear that he's somebody who is good. He's good about forming his thoughts and like really putting them into strategy. Like he's a good strategist is what I guess what I'm getting at.
He's a good on the fly fighter. If I had to say so myself. He's good,
just the way that he
thinks.
Yeah, it's very much like Deku, where Deku is doing a lot of thinking when he's in the middle of battle, and how he turns that into like strategy to use against the enemy and everything. It's just it's really cool to see shonen protagonists do that sort of thing.
The most recent episode of Demon Slayer would show you that too. The most recent episode would show you how Tanjiro puts his head to use, and he's just like, oh, so if I do this here, they don't have this here. I'll keep doing that. That gets rid of them. I don't have to bang my head on the wall for this one. I see what the problem is, and I've solved it. They can't win.
I love characters like Tanjiro, or like I guess Deku like kind of falls into this, like these really kind characters. Just because there's like, when they're put into certain situations, especially like Tanjiro, there's a fundamental tragedy to these characters who are asked to face these unfair circumstances that just makes the story all that much more riveting. Because you're sitting there looking at this guy, and you're like, dang, this man really don't deserve all this. And that alone, that feeling alone of like, this character doesn't deserve all of this, can keep you watching a show. Like, as long as they they're gonna get their get back. Like, because if it's just kicking a character over and over again, like, I'm gonna lose interest. But if like, as long as you like know gradually, like, oh, I'm gonna get stronger, I'm gonna get my get back. Like, when you look at a like, not like someone who's kind of getting their just desserts, but like that super innocent character that just keeps getting put through the ringer, and just like, eventually, like, okay, they go get their comeback, like, eventually. Like, that shit it just becomes so fascinating to watch because you're just like, fuck, this character really deserves better than this, and you want to see them get that better. So, all right, lightning round time. Get through them as quick as you can. Devin, what's up?
I'm about to just go ahead and start with Shikamaru. Definitely got a shot at my favorite Naruto character.
Awesome.
Just such a he's kind of comedic relief a little bit every time he comes into the picture. It's a drag. I don't want to be here. I don't want to do this. But I think the part that made me like him the most, and when it's like he was like, all right, I guess I got to show these folks I ain't playing out. When he had to get vengeance for Don killing Asuma. That boy wasn't playing no games. I liked his power too, his shadow ninjutsus he had. That boy was not playing no game. When Asuma died, that shows you like the fact that even though he was kind of a lazy person, he's very intelligent, but he was like lazy, just didn't want to do nothing. I think they said like, oh, he just wanted to live a regular life, and I don't want to be remembered for nothing. I want to be remembered just how I live my life. But it shows you, even those type of characters, they have people that they care about, and you mess with them folks, about to get punched in the mouth. So,
yep, you about to hold that.
Rakeem.
Yeah. So my choice is going to be Itadori from Jujutsu Kaisen.
Okay.
On the first episode of Jujutsu Kaisen, there's a short but powerful moment where Itadori is talking with his grandfather. His grandfather's dying, and he's having a conversation with him about like it's very short, and he dies right after this, and there's a funeral kind of thing, and it kind of leads into like what the meaning of death is, and like death as in how it relates to people that you leave behind, and what does your death have meaning? And as a result of that one conversation, his character archetype is kind of formed, and in the course of the show, it progresses where he gets involved with these curses, and he eats his finger, and he gets possessed by this king of all curses kind of thing. And it's established very early. Look, man, be honest with y'all, we got to kill this guy in your body. We're going to collect these fingers. At the end of his journey, you're going to die. And he's like, okay. Because his character archetype has changed to like the fear of death is gone and changed into, can my death mean something?
Have a meaning.
Which, yeah. And as a result, he's a character who's like really about sacrifice. He's kind of a freak athlete early on, and as he transitions from being like this great ace athlete to the world of curses and like jujutsu sorcerers, it's a whole new world for him. He has to adjust to it. And the crazy thing about it is he feels so normal. He feels like a natural kid. He's goofy. He's aloof sometimes, but he fits right in with them. Like it's a weird combination. Like most protagonists, they stand out some way where they're like either really standoffish or like really proud or really angry. He's like a normal guy. Like he doesn't act like emo. He doesn't act like super overly crazy. He just feels very natural. And he feels confused because he's in this new world. But I mean, he's also a guy like on the episode, you see him sitting down just watching Lord of the Rings, eating popcorn. As part of his training exercise, he watched Lord of the Rings and like teaming up with Toto about what woman he likes. Hey, I like Jennifer Aniston, man. Just straight up. It's the type of woman I like. So I really like Itadori. He's a really cool protagonist. I think he feels very natural in the flow of the shonen. I like where Jujutsu Kaisen is going. I've watched the whole show twice. Second and last one, I gotta give a shout out to Boji. I don't even know if it's technically traditional shonen, but let's check that out. Is it shonen? It's kind of lumped. It's kind of lumped in there.
I feel like ranking I mean, if not, it's like fantasy shonen. I mean,
yeah, it's shonen.
Yeah.
Okay. Boji, of course, as a protagonist who's a deaf mute. He's very different from anybody you've ever interacted with as a protagonist because he has to communicate a completely different way to everyone. And what got me into his character was the moment where he's always has a smile on his face, but then the character Kage, who's like his right-hand man, this little shadow creature, sees for the first time him actually hurting and like crying from all the just negative stuff people talk about behind his back, him being a prince of this kingdom, the next in line, and they just talk about, oh man, if we lead the kingdom to a deaf mute, Lord, where is this kingdom gonna go? He hears all that. He can't hear them, but he can read lips. So he understands everything everyone's saying. So that makes his character so much more dynamic because everyone thinks he can't understand what they're saying. So they say whatever they want, the nastiest, worst stuff. He understands every single bit of it. And that moment when he's like in his room crying and holding back tears, but still like persevering through it because that's his character. And like, he knows he can go through this. He knows he's proud of his heritage. He's proud of who his father is, even though his father... go into that. Not gonna go there and all. But he's
Yeah.
proud of who he is. He's proud of where he came from. He thinks he's gonna be next in line to be king anyway. He really does want to be the king. So he puts up that front when he's in front of people, like, hey, you can't get me down what you say. I'm gonna be happy. I'm gonna be standoffish. I'm going to be king. That's a kid you can get behind. And everybody, it's just he goes, and just like you said, Sage, a moment ago, characters that don't deserve what happens to them, is the embodiment of that. Literally, his entire character is that. He didn't deserve any of what happened to him. And you just can't help but root for him. So Boji's my other pick.
Great picks. Terrence, what you got for us?
I'm gonna keep it short and sweet. I'm gonna go with just as someone who's a different type of shonen protagonist is Light Yagami, just because Light, he's not traditional by any means. He's not a hero. He's an anti-hero. And it was just interesting to watch a shonen that focuses on a guy who, I mean, he literally has a god complex, and that he thinks he knows better what's best for the world more than anyone else. And you know, there's a lot of people who still have debates to this day about whether, you know, Death Note got worse after L died, or you know, should have Light have won, or where did he mess up and everything. But I don't think Light was ever like fully meant to win.
No,
but
he was a bad person.
Yeah, he was a bad person, and he got. I mean, and Ryuk told him from episode 1 is that, you know, as soon as you start using this at the end of your life, we're gonna come for you. Essentially, is what he said. And yeah, just following Light as a character throughout, just the whole cat and mouse between him and L, and how he uses his strategy against different characters. He's just a very interesting shonen protagonist to follow. Very different from a lot of the people that we've talked about, but that's just what made him interesting to me. And I will say, Rakeem, when you talked about Itadori, I thought about how he kind of falls under the Yusuke archetype in a sense.
Yeah,
like he is more like
smart.
that street smart kid. Yeah, so in a sense, we do have like a new school Yusuke in Itadori in a sense. Yeah, but yeah, that's what I'm gonna go with right now. Is just Light.
Okay. Will, what you got for us last lightning round characters?
All right, before I start dropping off my things, when Terrence made that thing about Light and him using the book, and they said they're gonna come get him, I don't know why Hell Girl popped into my mind right then in that moment, but yeah, I was just like, damn, that sounds like Hell Girl. but my quick little setup is I'm gonna use the Elric brothers here simply because I love Edward as a character, because simply for the fact that with him doing that whole you know, him using alchemy to try to bring his mother back, which I give him an E for effort, but I hate that he ended up losing his actual little brother behind that and got his brother in a suit of armor. But I love their dynamic, because in my mind, to me, I feel like while Edward is a very cool, calm, and collected character, and he can be funny and he can be serious when necessary, I also see Alphonse is like the linchpin that kind of keeps him down in a way. Like, hey, look, I can let you fly off the handle, but I can't let you just go, because if I let you go, then we kind of lose our purpose here. Like, we got to keep going forward. You're great. You're awesome. I thank you for having me here. I'm glad I'm here with you. But if you start flying off the handle, I'm going to have to hurt you. I'm going to have to keep you in line. I'm going to have to put you down. So I really like their dynamic. And the other characters I had in mind, just to list them off real quick, would definitely be Jotaro, Part 3. That is a grown man. You can't tell me that man ain't 17. Don't lie to me. Look at him. He shaves in the morning. We also have Part 4, Josuke Higashikata. I love him to death. He's like my favorite JoJo, like, as of like everything that I've read. I love Josuke to death. He's like awesome to me because he's just so cool. It's like he takes that delinquent thing and then he's like, I may have the pompadour, I may look like I dress up in a gang, but you know, I'm more of a good spirit. He shows that more in his actions than he does and he says it. And he's definitely a goofy character too. If you've read through or watched Part 4, you see that he can be goofy, like, or just have like little silly moments with him opening that paper and that gun pop out from behind. It's like, what the fuck is this? Yeah, and I had let's see, the last one I wanted to talk about really, just to throw him out there. I gotta admit, I've been watching this show since it came out. Eren Yeager. I had to give it to him. I know a lot of people don't really care for his character because of how he kind of started off.
More like how he finishing.
True. I know a lot of people don't like how he started off, but they grew on him, but now they looking at him like, I don't know if I can get behind him. But I think if he's written the way he has been written, I think it kind of fits in a way to be like, yeah, he went from being like, I'm losing everything to I have everything now, and now y'all about to lose everything. And it's kind of crazy to see somebody be like, I'm gonna be the hero to the villain. What's that saying? You live long enough to see yourself become the villain?
Yeah.
Definitely Aaron.
Yeah,
Well, he
so
only
he
has-
ended up doing that.
You only have so
And
many
I-
years to live anyway, so
Very true. Very true. But yeah, I kind of like that whole thing with him. Like he lived long enough to see himself become the villain. And I'm just like,
definitely.
that right there was kind of cool to me. I like that whole like arc. Watching that over these past 10, 11 years, been really dope.
Crazy. It's been that long.
Yeah, it really has.
All right, I guess I'll wrap it on up. The last two characters, I could use a shit ton of characters, but ultimately I just wanted to like just throw two more characters on the list just to like as backups or like whatever. So Erza from Fairy Tail and Mario Leona from Black Clover. Why am I barking? Because them women got the dog in them, and also they extremely my type. Because like I've always loved that archetype of like hella strong women in complete control of the situation. Like those characters always just cool to me. Because like when you see them, you like, oh shit, like they look cool, and then they back it up. Because like it's all types of characters in all of fiction, quite frankly, that show up and they look like they about to be cold, they about to do something, and they get punched in the mouth 2 seconds later, and you never think about them again. Erza's not that. Mario Leona's not there. They the characters that show up and everybody got to knock off all the silliness. You got Natsu and Grace squared up for the 50-11th time for no reason at all. Cut it out or get punched in the mouth. The Magic Knight Guilds, they trash talking when they should be focused on training. Well, now y'all getting dragged by this giant flaming lion hand so we can go train at a hot springs that's right next to right next to a volcano shooting out lava. Like, and when it comes to the villains, like even when they come up against villains, like any villain they face getting clapped. Mario Leona ran through half of like the Eye of the Midnight Suns, like all they like top tier elf villains or whatever. She ran through half of them by herself. Didn't need no protagonist to help her or nothing. Erza, she was out there handling S-class villains without like before Natsu was even considered an S-class. She was just handling them by herself because she built like that. I love those characters. So they the top tier characters in my mind. I just didn't use them because like those other two, because they're not the main characters ultimately, and so like you don't get as much focus on them as you would get on like a protagonist, like a central protagonist. All right, I think that's gonna wrap it up for this week's episode. So I need a few things from you. I need you to do us a favor and hit that subscription button on YouTube. I need you to follow us on Twitter. Follow us on TikTok. Don't just check us out. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell that internet guy that you cool with, that you be in Discord with. Hey, these dudes, they dope as fuck. You right. We are dope as fuck. All right. Exactly. Tell your coworkers. You never know. You might even make a new friend. And do me a personal favor and have an excellent week. Peace.